I want to talk about something that may be uncomfortable to people, but that's okay, because life is full of uncomfortable moments, and that's just, you gotta get used to it. And so, I did this experiment where I didn't eat for 2 weeks, and I just came back from a summer camp where I had access to food 24/7, and I thought I gained too much weight when I came back, so I wanted to lose the weight quickly. And I looked online and I looked at blogs, especially Tumblr, for ways to get rid of the weight fast. And I was at a vulnerable moment where I wanted to do something that would have results quickly. And I looked at blogs, and it was these blogs that were promoting anorexia and glorifying it and saying that it was like the cool thing to do, and you could only be beautiful if you were skinny. And at the time I knew something was wrong and weird about that, but I was at a vulnerable state where I fell for it because I wanted to be beautiful and happy like the people on Tumblr. And so I did this experiment, and I went into it knowing that it was an experiment. And I quit eating, I stopped, and I'm like, okay, here are my goals. I'm gonna figure out how quickly it will take for me to feel the symptoms, and how quickly I will get into that mental state of thinking that I'm fat, when I'm losing weight and I know, but I don't know that I'm becoming skinny. And so I did this experiment, and I knew that it was going to be tough, and I did it. And so I experienced these things that made me feel special in a way. When I did this, I was reading a book about North Korea and how people are brainwashed into believing that they don't need food to survive. They just need the bare minimum and nothing else. And that got me thinking too, how there are places around the world where they don't have access to a lot of food, and it's not very prevalent at all. And it made me feel like I was experiencing this worldly thing, that I was one of them in a way. I was experiencing something in the inner human mind and just body that nobody else could experience, to just go into that place. And I felt like that was really special. And factors like those made me really attracted to this experiment that I was doing. And these blogs were glorifying it, and at the time I was just like, oh, yeah, it's sort of cool, because I was feeling those things, and I felt like I was in control of something completely for once. And that feeling of control is addictive. And I continued the experiment, and it was so addictive, and I didn't realize that it had more control over me than I had control of it. And I really, in this situation, had no control. Because every time I looked in the mirror, I didn't see myself the way I did before I started the experiment. I saw myself as fat, and I just had to keep going through the experiment. And I wrote down things that I felt in my journal, and it affected me in every way. And I remember just always being cold, and the symptoms that arised by just doing it for a couple of days. I could feel my skin getting thinner and my nails getting drier and just terribly looking. And whenever I heard a loud sound, I could feel the sound vibrate through my body. And it was scary, but I was in that mindset where I had to keep going because I was so addictive to wanting to be this perfect image that I had in my head. And this illusion that I was trying to be perfect, but I knew I would never reach it. And then I thought about the juxtapose between not conforming and conforming. I was conforming in the way that I wanted to be beautiful and skinny by the standards of other people and how other people saw what beauty was. And then I was not conforming by not eating, because that's what most people do, they eat. And that's how they have experiences and communicate with each other and bond. And I realized that I would miss out on so many experiences and feelings if I never ate again. I would miss out on this thing that I used to love doing with people, because it made everybody happy and I got to understand people better that way. And on these blogs, these people who were suffering from anorexia complained about that the only thing that is keeping them alive was anorexia, and how they bonded with each other and other people was through anorexia and through their struggles. And it's great that people are struggling with each other, but there are other things to bond over, like how through happy experiences and so many other ways of just getting together about something. So it was 2 weeks into my experiment, and I knew that I could feel myself being pulled into this anorexic mindset. My routine was changing. I already was used to not eating and going to bed hungry and having dreams about people hating me because I thought I was fat. And I remember when I had my first full meal after 2 weeks of doing this. I was with my parents at a restaurant, and I had pasta, and I ate almost my whole plate. And this guilty feeling overcame me because I felt like I was too weak to continue the experiment. But I was in this process, and I couldn't no longer control how I felt about my experiment. And I thought it was the end of the world that I would never be this perfect image, and I would be fat and nobody would love me. And so I had to try my hardest to stop doing this. And I stopped, but the physical effects, my body regained weight afterwards. And that was one of the scariest things ever in my life. And it impacted me so much. And I thought about, if I never jumped out of this process, when would I have really stopped? When would it have been enough for me to think that I was perfect enough to stop? And anorexia is a really scary psychological disease that can really affect anyone if they're in some kind of situation where they need to have control or something, or that they have low self-esteem, or that they care about what other people think about them. And I just thought that life was not meant to live like this. And I wasn't happy doing it. And I told myself I would be happy if I continued the experiment, or if I got to that perfect image, but I knew it would never happen. So I just thought about how it's so critical that people think about what other people think about them so much that they can't even be happy for themselves. And that's just not the way I think that we were put in this life for. We're here to be happy. And we can be happy with each other. And these blogs that were online angered me so much, because I learned with my experiment what I wanted to learn, that anorexia is not for vanity, and it's not fun, because it really takes over your life and you can't focus on other things. I couldn't focus on my schoolwork. And it's not this thing that you can just carry around during the day and show off and then leave it at night, but it's always with you. It's always this shadow following you. And so, if you've made a mistake, if you feel like you've fallen for any eating disorders, or if you feel like you've failed yourself, there is always time for change. And there's always time to be happy. And when you look at life, you don't want to judge your life about the mistakes you made or the faults. You want to judge your life on how you grew from those mistakes and how you became this better person if you've grown from it. And I feel like with this experiment that I've really grown, and I've understood something that many may not understand, but I want to bring awareness to people that it's not all about what other people think of you. It's about your happiness. And you guys can be happy together, and you can always become happy and trust each other. And if you're scared to trust each other, it's okay, because that's what humans do. They have to trust each other, but from what I've experienced, people are good, and people unconsciously helped me through this process. And people want to understand each other. So why understand each other and just focus on one thing, like anorexia, like the vlog said, and just live life the way you want to live it without the criticism of other people, because that's your main goal, right? To be happy. And if anybody here is suffering from an eating disorder or self-harming or anything, I'm here, and I have enough knowledge to understand what you guys are going through, and I can answer any questions you guys have, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for you guys, and I think you guys are all beautiful the way you are, because you guys are all individual people. You guys are all different, and you don't have to be what people think is beautiful to be beautiful, because that's just not what life is for. It's for your happiness. I'm here for you guys. And if you guys have any questions that you guys want to ask as a group or individually, I'm here now. You guys. So yeah, I took this experiment and it helped me create most of these art pieces, because I could feel really what the image was. I could feel the hollowness in the ribs, and that's what my whole goal was, to show you guys and help you understand really what anorexia is. It's a legit disease. So if you guys have any questions you want to ask as a group, I'm here. If you guys want to any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you didn't eat any food at all for 2 weeks?
I did eat like little baby tomatoes here and there, and like lettuce and celery. But people who have anorexia, they still continue to eat, but it's very small proportions. And the control of anorexia makes you feel guilty afterwards. So many people who have anorexia also have, are also bulimic, but yeah, I did continue to eat things, but it's like I never ate any more than like 200 calories a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Questions? Anything? Yeah.
How much weight did you lose, Sienna, in 2 weeks?
I lost probably pretty sure 25 pounds. It's very addictive because I lost 8 pounds in the first 3 days, and I wanted to continue because it felt good to me at the time.
Did your mom say anything that you
I went to great lengths to hide it from a lot of people, and she never found out. I told her a couple weeks after I did it, because I knew I wanted to have a show, and I wanted people to realize what it really is.
How did you have that strength to continue living your life?
It was very hard. I take a lot of vitamins, and I did buy diet pills to keep me going, to give the caffeine, and it was very hard. I was tired all the time, and that led me to be grouchy, and I had a lot of mood swings, and a big thing afterwards, I the psychological aspect of it continued with me for like a month afterwards, and I was depressed pretty much afterwards, and I would like cry every night. But I continued because was really important to me, and I really wanted everybody to realize that what it really is. Yeah.
So the text in the middle,
Yeah.
represents the bulimia?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much, yeah. And just the faces on it, it's like people who may suffer from it and or maybe like some kind of goal.
Did you write it?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Have you talked to any other people who had like anorexia for ongoing use?
At the summer camp I was at, I knew some people who were suffering from eating disorders, and I did talk to them, but they never told me anything bad about it. They just said the good things. And then I did talk to people who didn't have anorexia. I talked to them about, I did admit that I had anorexia, and I did tell them it was an experiment because I wanted to see what kind of reaction people have towards anorexia. And you,
Other people that like you told or that ended up like figuring out what you were eating, like were you surprised by your reaction? What did you get?
I wasn't really surprised by their reactions, but most people were just surprised about me that I was in it, and I don't know. It's a weird thing to talk about to somebody personally, and I wasn't really surprised about any of the reactions.
Sienna.
What? Okay. Oh. Okay.
How did you lose so much weight no one noticed?
I usually wore like baggy clothes, like big sweaters, and and then if people asked me, I just told them that I was like on a new diet, or I would just give them the excuse, oh, this clothing makes me look thinner, and yeah, I went to great lengths to like hide it.
Losing 25 pounds would it like really impact your face?
I guess, yeah, it did, but so a lot of times they're sort of afraid to ask if there's anything wrong, or if people are really touchy about it. Yeah.
Did it ever frustrate you when you're like with your friends and you're eating?
Yeah, it did, but after they were done, it made me happy that I didn't eat with them, because if I did, I would have had that regret afterwards. Yeah.
What was the worst side effects?
Good question. I was supposed to have my period and I didn't, and that really scared me. And that was one of the main reasons why I quit the experiment, because such fast weight loss can do that. And I just looked up the symptoms, and I was just like, you can become infertile if you do it long enough, and that I didn't want that to happen to me, because that was one of my goals, to grow up and be happy by having children, but I didn't want to fall for that. Yeah.
Did you ever join the Tumblr blog conversations that you're talking about?
I mainly observed, but I did. I was afraid that if I got more involved with them, then I would get more involved into the anorexic lifestyle, and I didn't want to get completely submerged in it. Yeah.
So would you say that it was kind of a good thing?
What, addicting?
It was, yeah.
Yes, very, very addicting. That's one of the reasons why it was like really hard to get out of it, because I wanted to get results and I wanted to feel really thin, and I had this image of me just being so thin I could just like fly when I like hopped, and it's weird, but that's what happened to me in the controlling aspect too. It's just you want to control something, and when you have that control, you don't want to give it up so easily.
If you could like go back before you did the experiment, like would you have done anything different or not to it at all?
I would have done it anyways because it's something that I saw that people are suffering, and I wanted to really make this case. And if I changed anything, I don't know. I don't think I would have changed anything. I don't think there could have been really anything I could have changed.
Although you know now that it wasn't a good decision, like
Yeah.
do you still like subconsciously feel like you miss anything about it? Like the pleasure you get from it or whatever, like the feeling like you completed something?
Not as much as I did. I wanted to have the show before winter break, and I wasn't really mentally prepared to have it because I still felt that that I could have slid back into it if I did do the show. But now it's scary because there was addictive parts to it that I sometimes think about that I could do, but I know for a fact that it's just not worth it at all, and I wouldn't go back to it. Yeah.
Did you ever forget that you were doing an experiment during
Yes. At the end of my experiment, the process, I felt myself really falling for it instead of just as an experiment. I thought I could continue it and it could be my new kind of lifestyle. And I stopped myself. It was incredibly hard to stop myself, but I knew I had to stop or else when would I have ended without any boundaries. And if I continued it, I don't think I could have gained as much control over the situation as I did. So yes.
How long did it take you like recover and then get back to eating like normally again?
Well, I guess a couple months afterwards, I was sort of like nitpicking, like eating things and just being really aware of what I'm eating, and I would still eat like things that are like really low calorie, but I was eating more, and the physical effects from it did end, but the psychological effects continued, and it reminded me that I had to eat, and now I'm in a place where I'm not regretful when I eat, and it takes a long time. The after effects are surprisingly